Okay, what do you do in your job?
Well, my position is Executive Director for the Idaho Council for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. And that's a state agency that works with people who are deaf, hard of hearing, or have other types of hearing loss to provide them access to perhaps employment, housing, access to medical care, and a variety of other venues. So our priority is to analyze their quality of life and ensure that they feel that they are happy citizens of Idaho. And so we look at all of the issues with regard to access as a state agency. For example, access to vocational rehabilitation, the State Independent Living Council, any nonprofit organizations. So we provide advice to them so that they're providing optimal service to deaf and hard of hearing persons.
Okay. How did you get your job?
Well, it wasn't only through luck. What happened was I was working in Washington, D.C. for several years. And I knew a few people from the state of Idaho who informed me that there was a job opening in Idaho that would fit my skill set really well. And so I looked through the job description and the job posting, and I was interested. And I felt like this would give me an opportunity to contribute back to Idaho. I'm from Idaho, and so I wanted that opportunity to give back. And so I filled out the application, interviewed for the job, and was offered it. And I did decide after some consideration to accept the job and move my family and myself back here to Idaho. And I've been back for about 2 years. Well, in January, actually, it'll be 3 years that I've been back. Time just flies.
It certainly does. Why is working important to you?
Well, work is important to me because part of my identity is what I do for a living. And what I do for a living is something that makes a difference in society. It's my chance to improve the world and for the betterment of persons in Idaho. And for people to succeed in life and to have a fulfilled life, they need to work. They need to pay their taxes. They need to contribute. In order for us to use the roads and everything else that taxes contribute, I wouldn't feel whole as a person if I weren't contributing to that tax pool. And so I believe that employment should be everyone's goal. It certainly is for me.
Thank you. What is the best part of your job?
There's several parts of my job that are what I consider great. When I see change happening in the deaf and hard of hearing community, specifically in their quality of life, that is paramount to what I do. And that can happen in many different ways. An example of that would be at Boise State University. I've worked very hard to partner with them to develop a minor in American Sign Language. And we've met with many people on many occasions, and they've now established it as a minor. And while that may seem incidental, it's huge because there's now a greater appreciation for the language, a greater appreciation for the deaf community. It's a very popular minor, and the classes are full, and the barriers that happen for us on a daily basis are very slowly being resolved, so that being who I am out in the community as a deaf person is becoming less task-ridden. And so different things like that make my job just great.
Sounds good. What accommodations do you use?
I use typically 3 different types of accommodations. The first is interpreters for meetings, for example, meeting with legislators or other persons. Typically I bring in an interpreter because that way we can communicate. The second is a video phone, which uses video relay services. And that gives me the ability to make any calls that I need to without delay. Older technologies caused a typically short phone call to take a very long time, and it just wasn't conducive to the flow of telephone conversation that you'd want. And so that's been very useful. Thirdly is that I can text to anyone through a mobile device, and so that way I can be in contact with anyone while I'm on the go, just like your average hearing person.
Nice. What advice would you give to another person with a disability or another person that is deaf that is thinking about going to work?
I would say that getting a job should be your ultimate goal. Achieving employment should be paramount. And while the process can be really difficult, for example, back to school, going through all the barriers and the loopholes to get a job, we must not ever forget that getting a job in and of itself is worth it. And people don't realize that they will feel more free if they have a job. Oftentimes people think, I've got an easy life, I've got no job. Whereas it really is the opposite. People who don't have a job typically struggle with the very small things in life, and they don't typically develop as a person. Whereas if you have a job, you have goals, your potential is used, your skills are used. And so I believe that a job is very, very important to a satisfying life. So I think that that's a goal that should never be removed from someone's future.
Well, good. Anything else you'd like to say?
Well, there's a famous quote by a previous president of the university, Gallaudet University, called I. King Jordan. And his quote is, "Deaf people can do anything but hear." And that's a powerful quote. And I believe it. I, as a deaf person, can do anything imaginable, except for hear. And that really impedes very little in my life. Whether you have a visual impairment or you use a wheelchair, let's say you're in a wheelchair, you can do anything but walk, anything. So oftentimes people with disabilities put limits on themselves, and we can't let other people limit us. We should never allow other people to limit us. And so just believing in yourself and believing you can do anything you want, it's a powerful thing.
That is powerful. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's all.